Hello everyone and welcome to B6 and Beyond with myself, Corey, and Ben. Ben, how are you today?
Yeah, all good, mate. How are you doing?
Not too bad, thank you. So, as usual, we're going to get into all things at B6 and Beyond. But first of all, Ben's got something to tell you. Ben, take it away.
Yeah, so over on our TikTok, we released a video earlier that we are doing a giveaway for one of you lucky Aston Villa fans to potentially win a home shirt. So basically, how to qualify for that is if you go onto the video, you like the video and you press that lovely little plus button to follow us, and then also subscribe. So make sure you subscribe to here, the YouTube channel. You will enter the competition for a home shirt, which we will be giving away on the 15th of August.
Brilliant. And one thing to add with that as well is if all goes well and this does well, we'll be looking to do more giveaways just like that as well. Potentially the away shirt and other Villa giveaways as well. So, Ben, let's talk about Villa. We've had some positive news today from Jacob Tanswell talking about Boubacar Kamara. I've got the tweet up here. So, it's Newin. He said, Villa are increasingly confident of agreeing a new contract with Boubacar Kamara. There's no agreement yet been struck, but talks are progressing with all parties and it's positive of an extension soon. So, Ben, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, most people have, like, you've got phobias, scared of the dark, spiders, snakes. Me, personally, one of my biggest fears in life at the moment is losing Boubacar Kamara from Aston Villa Football Club. So to get him over the line and a contract extension would be absolutely fantastic. I feel like, personally, he's one of the most underrated players in the Premier League. He gets some stick from some opposition fans, but just the ones that don't understand how good of a footballer he actually is. He's one of the best sixes in the league for me. I don't even think that's debatable. He's that good. So for us to secure his signature and his services for a longer period of time, it's exceptional work from the club. Ultimately, he has history of running down his contracts and that's how we got him at the end of the day. So there is always that fear that we could lose him on that basis. But to get him over the line, get a new contract and secure that value as well, because if he was to leave Villa and someone was to come in with a big fee, getting that contract signed is massive for that. How about you? How do you feel about it?
Definitely. As you say, it's one of those players where we can't afford to lose him. I think losing Douglas Luiz last year was bad enough, so to then potentially be losing Boubacar Kamara as well would have been awful. And as you say, I think he's extremely underrated. Obviously, we've seen the links to Chelsea, Liverpool, Man United, all these teams coming in and looking at him. Those sort of teams don't just look at players who are average players. He's a quality player. He's brilliant on the ball. He's brilliant at winning the ball back. He's brilliant at cutting into spaces. He's just an outstanding player. I'm running out of hyperboles to describe him. He is that good. And like you say, it's a key part. I think one of Villa's main goals this year is going to be trying to win a trophy. Obviously, I think the main goal will be Europa League. If we win that, we get Champions League football, which again means players like Boubacar Kamara stay further into that contract. And I think for us to be winning the Europa League, we need to keep players like Boubacar Kamara on for that 1 year at least. Obviously, I know there will be a lot of Villa fans who won't agree with what I'm saying here, but if we don't win it this year and we don't get Champions League, fair enough if he wants to leave and pursue Champions League football, because that's the sort of quality player that he is. But for this year, it's a massive must. And I think a lot of people obviously moaned about the transfer business and loan FC, as everyone's sort of calling us now, loaning out players. But I think the reason we're doing this is for players like Boubacar Kamara. If we can get those wages shifted, we can offer him that new contract, which I think is something that we maybe couldn't have done probably even 2 weeks ago. So, yeah. It's all positives, really.
Yeah, I think for me, there's two positions on the pitch that are probably the hardest to recruit for at the moment, and that is a defensive midfielder and a striker, because there's such lack of availability of those sort of players in the market. You know, you look at Man United, for example, when they lose Casemiro, when he goes, Agate, is he better than Boubacar Kamara? No. Arsenal hadn't had a proper one for a while. You know, they're playing Declan Rice there, and he's that player. He's more of an 8. Obviously, they've now got Zubamendi, but like teams are struggling to get a proper quality number 6. Liverpool have obviously just adapted Gravenberch into that position, and he's done a decent enough job for Liverpool there. But I would personally say that Boubacar Kamara is a better number 6 than Gravenberch, which might be some people might not like what I've just said there and think it's an astronomically out of proportion shout by me, but that's my opinion.
No, I think it's a fair opinion to have. I think, obviously, we won't go too much into the detail of people like Ryan Gravenberch and people like that, but I think the one thing, I mean, from my coaching background and things like that, the one thing you look for in a number 6 is you don't want to know they're there. If you watch a game of football, you don't notice they're there. If you watch that one player, you're watching the whole game of football, and that's what Boubacar Kamara is. He's that sort of player where everything Villa do goes through him, whether it's him winning the ball back to start attacks, whether it's the players in the midfield in defence playing it into him. That's the sort of player he is. He's not a flashy player by any means. He's a sort of player where he'll win the ball back and play a 10, 15-yard passes, but we look at some of the best midfielders to ever play in the Premier League. Roy Keane is a prime example of someone who 10, 15-yard passes is probably one of the best to ever do it. And that's all you want from your number 6. Okay, it's nice to have a player who can ping it 30, 40 yards, but he can do that as well. He's more than capable of doing that. So, obviously, with the Gravenberch comparisons, I personally would agree with you. I think, like you said, there's a lot of people who maybe won't, but Gravenberch's had one good season. Kamara has had 3 or 4, but he's so unnoticed because of who he plays for. And I think if he was playing for Liverpool or Arsenal or Man United, he'd be a starter in that French squad. Mm-hmm. And I think that's another bold thing to say, but I genuinely believe that.
I think his passing is so underrated. You've just mentioned it there, that he can play those passes, and it really does. Throw back for me. I think he got the assist for Bailey in the FA. No, was it Carling? Was it the cup game we got knocked? Carling Cup, sorry. Obviously, Carling Cup, the Carabao Cup, sorry, against Crystal Palace, weren't it? When he literally turned and played a pass very quickly to Bailey, which got us forward, and he can do that, and he does it most games, to be fair. Obviously not gets assists most games, but he's always spraying passes about. So I definitely think that's a very underrated quality of his myself. Just to touch on something here, because I think it brings us on nicely to our next point. So obviously you've mentioned about the loan market, that Villa loan FC and whatnot, and we're moving players out just on loan. I think that brings us nicely onto our next topic, and that is Enzo Barrenechea has officially left Aston Villa on a loan to Benfica. So what's your thought process?
Yeah, I mean we've spoken a lot about this off camera and how you listen to Villa fans, and we could make a full 11, probably 2 teams competing against each other of players who are supposedly world class when they're not playing for Aston Villa, and I think Enzo Barrenechea fits into that. I'm sure, don't get me wrong, I'm sure he will turn out to be a somewhat decent player, and I don't have any problems with that, but it's like I mentioned to you, he's 1 year younger than Boubacar Kamara, and he's nowhere near that level. He's a year or 2 older than Amadou Onana, and he's nowhere near his level. So, at what point does he start to develop? And that's not me saying he's a bad player. Like I say, he's meant to have this unbelievable potential, but at some point he's got to unlock that. And for me personally, if it means he goes to Benfica and he does that for Benfica over the next 3-4 seasons as they go and sell him for £70 million, fair enough. You have to ask Villa fans now, would they keep Barrenechea at the club to start playing him this year if it meant we lose Onana or we lose Kamara? And the answer's no. Simply put, we've got better players in that position at the moment, and we've not only got better players, we've got better players who are younger. And you look at someone like Lamar Bogard, for example, who I think will feature quite a lot this year. He's another one who is even younger than Onana. He's, I think, 22, Lamar Bogard. Mm-hmm. So that's a year or 2 younger than Onana and Barrenechea, and he can play in that 6 as well, which is probably his more favoured position. So you have to look at that and think, don't get me wrong, obviously I'm gutted that it didn't work out, especially obviously as part of the Douglas Luiz deal. It doesn't look great on our behalf, the fact that we've sort of got 2 players in that deal who are more than likely never going to play for Villa. But
personally, I think it was always the plan. Look, the booked fee for Enzo Barrenechea, so I'm led to believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, is €6 million. Now we're going to flip him for €12 million or €15 million. So effectively, it starts to make that Douglas Luiz deal look a little bit better than what it did. Obviously, Ealing Junior is the next one, and I'm not massively convinced on him either. I think he'll be another one the minute we can shift him off the books. I think the Villa will look to do so. One of my biggest frustrations at the moment around this loan FC comment and loan comment, and I've done some content on this on TikTok, is the perception of Monchi, and he's getting it wrong, he's deluded, he's useless, etc., etc. Monchi, the way he's navigating this window for me is sublime, and I think it's so clever. So obviously, we're all aware that we had PSR issues, and the big word, not really a big word, it's only like a 3-letter word there, but key word is had. We had PSR issues. We do not have PSR issues anymore. We have SCR issues, which is completely different. Villa need to reduce our wages, which we've touched on multiple times in our podcasts, but some Villa fans, it doesn't seem to be getting to them. This financial reporting year, we have our Champions League money in it. So why would we sell the players now when we don't necessarily need to have that money right now? Next year, the Champions League money drops off. Yes, we've got the Europa League money, whatever that looks like, depending on how far we get in the tournament, but it's not a guarantee. So surely it makes more sense, which Villa are doing and how we are operating. Let's send the players out on loan now with an obligation to buy in the next reporting year. It's absolutely brilliant by Monchi, in my opinion.
Definitely, and I think the one thing that is key to mention, obviously, like you say about Monchi, I've seen a lot of people, and you've probably seen the same comments, saying he's only had 2, maybe 3 signings that have proved to be good. And at the end of the day, how many sporting directors get it 100% right? Like you said, you can turn around and say, performance-wise, maybe that is the case. But then if you actually dive deeper into that, it's not. Like you say, you've got Berenchea there. We've doubled the profit on him. You've got Ealing Junior, who, okay, probably won't make too much more money, but he's English. If he has half a season that's good in the Championship, we could easily make more money on him. It's not just about those players, as you say, who are playing for Villa. I mean, there's the thing about Onana. I think Onana's a really funny one for me, actually, because I think a lot of people, especially a lot of outsiders, last season thought he was this terrible player because he wasn't playing. It's like, he wasn't playing because of injury. That's the one thing that needs to be sort of mentioned. Don't get me wrong, when he came back, it was always going to be hard to come into the team when Boubacar Kamara playing so well and Tielemans was playing so well. But when he did come back, I think it's that Bournemouth game, I believe, against... Was it Tielemans who was out for that game?
Well, he absolutely battered it in midfield, didn't he? He looked like prime Yaya Toure.
He was the best player in the pitch by a country mile. And, like I say, yes, there was a big fee. But we're also at a level now at Aston Villa, and this isn't me being big-headed before anyone said... We're at a level now where £50 million players don't just automatically get in the starting 11. And that's unbelievable for us. If you would have said that 2-3 years ago, it'd be like, if you're paying 50 million, they're playing week in, week out. But, as I say, money-wise, I think we've done brilliantly. Alex Moreno, for example. Moreno had a great season for us. Got sent out on loan at Forest last year. Didn't have a great season for Forest. Brilliant business if you look at it, really. You look at it and say, the one season we needed him, he's come in, we've got into Europe. The next season, he's not been at that level, we've dropped him. Ashley Young comes in. These sort of players that are being bought in, they're being bought in for a purpose, whether it's to sell on for more money, or whether it's to fill that purpose of 1 year where they do something, and the next year we can flog them.
Well, you look at the likes of Diaby. Like, we brought him in. He did all right. He didn't set the world alight, but ultimately we sold him for profit. I think he's operating very well myself. I just think Monchi gets a lot of stick, and ultimately, what a lot of Villa fans seem to, say a lot of Villa fans, that minority that are digging Monchi out. What you seem to forget is these signings aren't going to just be signed off by Monchi. Monchi, Damian Vidigani and Emery, they are a close-knit circle. They are everything goes through each other, and there's no way that a player is joining Aston Villa unless Unai Emery is giving it the final green light.
Exactly, and I think that's the funny thing is if you look on Twitter, you see the same people complaining about Monchi saying, if Emery wants him, I'll have him, sort of thing. And it's like, well, who do you think's negotiating these deals? Monchi picks up the players, reports it to Emery. Emery says whether he likes them or not, and then we go from there.
Exactly that. Exactly that. So the big question is, are we concerned?
I don't think it's changed too much from last time we spoke about it. I think the last podcast was the time we spoke about it. Also, just like to apologise for the time frame in between the podcasts. I know we were doing them quite regularly. I myself was graduating from university, so I haven't been free. And Ben, unfortunately, was ill, but he's feeling better now, so we've jumped back on. Listen, obviously, I'm not concerned by what we're doing. There's a few concerns in terms of are we losing much in the market? We've obviously, I mean, we could speak about Spurs, but one of their targets isn't going there anymore, so automatically they've dropped a level straight away. I think if they get Kudus and Morgan Gibbs-White, they're up here. Now that Gibbs-White's not going, they've dropped down again. Arsenal, obviously, listen, we were never going to be competing with Arsenal, unfortunately. But they're doing nice business. Liverpool doing great business. Newcastle, who we probably will be competing with, they've not done a lot. They've got a Langer in. That's about it. So we're not too far behind. So at the moment, there's nothing too much to be concerned about. As I say, if in a couple of weeks we haven't really done a lot, then you start to worry. I think the only sort of concern for me is that there's not been any links really. Not any concrete links. Normally by now, whether we've signed people or not is different. Normally there's some sort of links to people, but there's not really been anything there. Ben, yourself?
Yeah, I don't think there will be though, personally, because I just feel, the way I look at it, I think the club can't move as such because they don't know which of their high earners are going. That's how I perceive it, because the only way that we are going to bring that our SCR down is a big sale of one of our high earners, whether that be Emi Martinez, whether that be Ollie Watkins. One of them will go. I'm quite openly going to say that, and I'm facing it head on. I don't care if one of them go. Ultimately, as long as we've got Unai Emery still guiding the football club, I don't care. We'll replace them and we'll move forward as a team. I don't think we're moving, and I don't think we're seeing the links. And I think we'll be having these conversations in the background. Monchi's not stupid. He's going to be having conversations with certain strikers, with certain goalkeepers, and putting the feelers out there to see if it becomes an option. Would you be interested in joining Aston Villa? I just think as soon as we see one of them go, or whoever that is, then I think we'll move. Whether that is an Ollie Watkins, whether that is a Emi Martinez, whether it is a Amadou Onana, for example, that it could well be. And I know we don't want to lose certain players. I particularly wouldn't want to lose Ollie Watkins. I know a lot of Villa fans, I'm pretty sure yourself, wouldn't want to lose Amadou Onana, for example. But if the right fee come for these players with the wage that they're on, it can happen. Like for me, I've said it multiple times. You've got Onana, Kamara, Tielemans, John McGinn, all on over 120k, who can play in the centre of the park. That's not good in the position that we're in, especially when, as you've just said, we've got Lamar Bogard coming in who can play that rotational player. I don't see us having, especially now they're talking about Kamara's new deal, I don't see a world where we can have Onana, Kamara and Tielemans all on over 140k. That's just my opinion on it.
Yeah, I think, obviously, I'll touch on the midfield part in a second, but you've obviously spoke about Monchi behind the scenes and stuff like that. One thing we've always been good at in recent times... Sorry, that doesn't really make sense, a bit contradictory. One thing we've been good at in recent times is getting really good deals. You look at the Pau Torres deal. We signed Pau Torres for £30 million. The season before, Spurs had a £70 million bid rejected for him. Tielemans, £60 million a year before from Arsenal, sign him on a free. The one thing we're always doing is looking at the best possible deal. So like you say, Monchi will be talking to people. He might be talking to a Douglas Luiz at the moment to say, listen, we do want you to come back, but we can't do it now. What about if we wait till the end of the window and see if Juventus drop their price a bit? That sort of thing. He'll be talking to people about that. He'll be trying to find moves, and if these players don't want to come, they won't be interested. I mean, I saw about Loic Bade, for example, and how we were linked to him again. Again, it was one of those sources, and I think it was Monchi came out and said, we're not looking for players of that level anymore. And I think people took that as oh, we've lost this now because of Champions League. The way I read into it is he's not at our level. I'm not sold by Loic Bade anyway. I don't think he would have been a good replacement or a good player to come into the team from what I've seen. I think people have read it as that Champions League. Monchi's going to know. Monchi's going to be picking players, like I say, Emery has said. They'll be doing stuff at the moment. Even as we're talking right now at 10 past 10 on a Friday evening, Monchi's probably in Spain talking to Villarreal's centre-back or something about whether they're interested in coming. He'll be talking to everyone. And then as for the midfielders, like you say, it's not viable. I think McGinn, for me, is probably untouchable in terms of, like we said, we had a discussion about McGinn last time out. He's the captain. He's probably one who would potentially drop his wage if asked, but I don't think they'd ask him to. Tielemans, after last season, is irreplaceable. Kamara is irreplaceable, and as you say, I'm a big Onana fan, but if the money came in from Saudi for 80 million, let's say, I know that's a wild figure, but if it did, you snap the hand off. Especially if you could get someone like Douglas Luiz to come back, and Douglas Luiz took 75 grand a week, let's say. You've dropped 50 grand in wages there and also made a profit on Onana.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely something I think they're going to be thinking about, isn't it? And we obviously had the Onana links earlier on in the window to, I think it might have been Al Hilal, maybe, could be wrong, yes. But anyway, it was a Saudi side. I think that could still happen, and that I'm leaving that door open. Villa fans, let us know in the comment section how do you feel about that? What we've just spoke about. Do you think Onana could potentially leave the football club? Would you be happy with it, or who do you think will be that player that we will lose to obviously reduce our wage bill? Right, on that note, unless you've got anything else you want to talk about from B6, because personally I can't think of anything else. It's like I say, it has been pretty quiet.
I think we both missed the friendly as well, but it's just a friendly. It's a game against. I mean, you look at the players that are out there. There's a few first team players. From what I've heard, it was disappointing, but it's the first game back together. It's a friendly.
Who cares? Yeah,
exactly that.
Yeah, it's all about fitness at this point, isn't it? I've had a few people, all in my workplace, say to me, "Oh, what's this vicious rumour that Aston Villa lost to Warsaw?" Who cares? No one cares. Anyway, moving on. So let's move on to the Beyond section now. Let's talk about the ongoings beyond Aston Villa, and I think that it's a good time really to talk about this Newcastle and Liverpool. How can we put it? Ego. Yeah, this whole saga of Alexander Isak and Hugo Ekitike. Obviously, this comes about as Newcastle thought they were going to sign Hugo Ekitike. They had a bid rejected for him and were going in with a second bid. And Liverpool have come in, said to Newcastle, you either sell us Alexander Isak or we take Hugo Ekitike. And Liverpool have taken Hugo Ekitike. How do you view this?
It's an interesting. I've seen from every fan's perspective. The Newcastle fans obviously saying they think it's a masterstroke in terms of they think they've gone in for Ekitike basically to get Liverpool away from Isak. My honest opinion, no chance. You don't put in a 75 million bid at the hope that it gets rejected. That's not something that you do. It was always a weird one, I think, when it was reported. The idea of Ekitike and Isak playing up top just didn't seem right because, like you say, they're either going to have to change formation to a 4-2-4, which they'd get overrun in midfield, or you have to drop a Gordon or a Langer who they've just signed to get these players in, and then you can't really sacrifice Isak playing off the left because it's not fair on one of the players who is arguably the best striker in the world, and I will say that. So yeah, I mean, listen, we spoke about Liverpool. Their business has been brilliant. Liverpool have quietly over the last few years, they've not done a lot of business up until this point, and I think it's worked brilliantly for them. They've waited for a good window to be able to go out there, get players, do whatever they want. If I'm honest with you, it wouldn't surprise me if there was still another change and Isak ends up going to Liverpool and Ekitike does end up going to Newcastle. I don't know what your thoughts are on it, Ben.
I don't see that happening now. I did see links today that Saudi Arabia are sniffing around Isak for 250 million, which is interesting. But
apparently, the owners have said that he can talk to the Saudi Arabians. He just can't talk to Liverpool.
Yeah, I wonder why. I do not think that Newcastle have come out of this looking very good, to be honest with you. And that isn't my agenda against Newcastle, as some people may think. I just think Liverpool have come in and they've showed their power. At the end of the day, Newcastle fans won't like that, and they'll probably say, "How have they showed their power? They haven't taken Alexander Isak from us. They've come in, they've taken your top target. It was clear as day that you wanted Hugo Ekitike, and Liverpool." They need a striker. They're going to sell Darwin Núñez. Likelihood is they're going to sell Luis Diaz as well. So they've got the money to flex. They've come in and they've took one of the players at the end of the day. There is a very, as we've already touched on earlier on in the podcast, there's a very, very small window and small market, of strikers. So they've come in and they've took one. And I think personally, yes, Hugo Ekitike isn't as good as Alexander Isak. He isn't. Can he be? Who knows? Who knows what the level he can develop to? But ultimately, at Liverpool, he will get so many chances and he will score so many goals just because he's playing in that side.
Yeah, definitely. I think one question I want to ask, and obviously you've touched on it slightly, and this will probably end up going on the TikTok, by the way, so if it is on the TikTok, in the comments I want to hear. And it's a question to Newcastle fans, and I want serious answers, not biting my head off saying, what is it about Newcastle that doesn't appeal to players? Because it just seems like everybody Newcastle want, they don't get. Okay, Alanga's come in, but James Trafford today has now been linked to going to Man City. All of a sudden, that was a done deal 4 weeks ago. What's happened there? Mbeumo was meant to be going to Newcastle. He's gone to Man United. It always seems like, for whatever reason at Newcastle, the players you want go somewhere else. And it's not me saying this is a dig. I just genuinely am interested. I mean, I saw an interview with Eddie Howe, for example, and he seemed absolutely fuming in his interview. And I've never seen Eddie Howe angry, and it looked like he was getting really annoyed at what was happening. He was saying about how they've got a small squad now, and I think he's starting to get fed up with it.
You got Liam Delap as well. Liam Delap, João Pedro, both of them were heavily linked.
Listen, I understand that a lot of these players have gone to bigger clubs and better teams, let's say. And that, again, don't take that the wrong way. I'm not saying Chelsea are better than Newcastle at the moment, but they're building that sort of team. Man United, I'm not saying Man United are a better team at the moment, but the bigger club comes into it with obviously Mbeumo, people like that. It's just a genuine thing as to why the Newcastle always seem to struggle. Don't get me wrong, they've managed to get a few, but they've got the Brunos in, the Sven Botman, people like that. But these are players who had a bit less traction. Bruno had a lot of traction, I'm not going to say didn't, but Botman didn't have loads of traction. So what's the difference between those sort of players and the ones that you want now?
I'll tell you one thing, a big question I've got. Why is there such a fear of losing Alexander Isak? I appreciate he's one of the better strikers in world football, but the Geordies always bang on about having a world-class coach, a top coach in Eddie Howe. So if you've got such a world-class top coach, why are you so scared about losing Isak? Sell him, make the profit, invest in your whole the squad, get a deeper, built more rounded squad where you can compete better, and coach your new striker to a world-class striker, because if you've got such a world-class manager, surely that shouldn't be that difficult to do. That's just me throwing that out there, really. Well, I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I think obviously there is that slight thing of what you've touched on earlier about there's a lack of strikers out there, so replacing him would be difficult in that sense, and obviously Osler's definitely not the man to do it. He's got about 2 goals in his career as a striker. I think he's more of a glorified hype man in terms of getting a transfer over the line. I completely agree though. I think, listen, obviously Newcastle fans will have their say on it and that sort of, but the last 2 seasons are the perfect example of what you're saying. The season they were in the Champions League, they had a lot of injuries and they lost a lot of games, hence why they didn't get back in the Champions League. Last season, they had hardly any injuries. When everyone's fit, there's no denying they've got one of the best teams in the league, and that's fair game. All it takes is a couple players to be injured and they lose it. that's where I think Villa have developed so well. I don't want to obviously keep bringing it back to Villa, but we've got the squad depth now where even the players like a Ross Barkley, we didn't actually mention earlier, is that number 6 role. You've got youngsters like Lamar Bogard who are ready to come in. We've got Onana, we've got Tielemans, we've got McGinn, we've got Ramsey, we've got Rodgers, we had Asensio, we had Rashford, all these people last year. Obviously, we don't have them now, Rashford and Asensio, but we had these people, and that's what we worked on to get to where we are. So I completely agree in that stance. I think obviously it is that worry of losing the best striker in the world, I guess, but I completely understand your point as well.
They just have to. There has to be that less of a fear factor of losing a player and be able to sell players and replace them and build a better squad. And that's what I think Villa have done really well over the last few years. And Newcastle obviously went really, really heavy early on, and then they weren't able to spend for multiple seasons. But that's because they had just built a really ridiculously strong first 11. Yeah, it's just a thought process, Mom. Really, like I say, if you got such a world class manager, surely there shouldn't be such a fear to lose these players. If my comments are really driven from the fact that, you know, with this interest from Liverpool in Alexander Isak, if he was getting Hugo Ekitike over the line, so you would have had a top class striker anyway. Why was there still a fear of losing Isak? That would be my question posed there. Right, on to the next bit. I think it's probably a good point to leave that topic. Brian and Mbeumo and Manchester United. Right, I've got a really strong opinion on this. Manchester United are the worst operating team in the transfer window and have been since Ferguson's left. Absolutely useless. How on earth can you be negotiating for a lower fee from Brentford for 2 months easy? That this Brian Mbeumo deal has been spoken about for months on end now, and you've been pissing about, arguing over 10 million, 5 million, and Brentford, to be fair to them, have shown their spine. They have backed themselves, and they told them, no, you can't, if you want him, you can take him for 65 million plus 5 million add-ons, I believe it is, so it'll be a 70 million all-round package. And Man United were like, nah, no chance. Newcastle are coming in for Johan Wissa. Manchester United have acted and they've paid what Newcastle wanted. I mean, not what Brentford wanted, sorry. So they've crumbled anyway, so why would you flapping and messing about for so long when you could have had him in early and bed him into your squad, and now you're 2 months down the line? It's absolutely embarrassing. And Man United have been working like this and operating like this for a long time now.
You've said it there. It's typical Man United at the moment. I think the best one I like to look back at is Rasmus Højlund. I remember the Atalanta sporting director speaking about it, and he said they heard they'd had a bid from Man United. They were happy to accept 30 million or 35 million for him. Bid comes in for 80 million. Go for it. It's ridiculous. The need to spend too much is a problem, and then now, where I think it stems from with the Mbeumo deal is because of these previous deals. Because they've overspent so much in previous deals, all of a sudden now teams are just like, well, if you're going to lowball us, we'll just wait. And Man United are so scared of losing play, which it's so funny to see, because obviously we're so used to Man United being the team that come in last minute and just go, we'll have them. We've seen it when Ashley Young went, just picking whoever they want, picking and choosing. And then you look at it now where teams like Brentford are able to just say, no, we don't want to sell him for that much. Man United come back. Do you want a couple million extra? We'll take 10 million extra. We'll hold off a second. Okay, we'll give you 15 million extra. It's ridiculous. It's that sort of thing. Like, you can guarantee Brentford probably would have said, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, was it 65 plus 5 in the end?
Yeah, that's what I believe it is, 70 million round package.
Brentford have probably just said, we'll give us 65. And Man United would probably go, we'll throw an extra 5 in just to be sure. That's just how they are at the moment, which is ridiculous. I mean, it's weird, especially with the Cunha deal. They got the Cunha deal done so quickly and so efficiently. And then this one's just the complete opposite. I mean, listen, I think most people say it, and there is an element of jealousy to a lot of people when we say it. There's probably an element of jealousy from me when I say it. It's funny to watch Man United like this. And there is that jealousy of obviously growing up knowing that Man United, up until this year, were probably the biggest club in England. I think, as much as I'm not a big Liverpool fan, I'm glad they took them over. But it's just, there's something going on at Man United, and it's something so wrong. And then, again, with the Emi Martinez deal, for example, they're not even putting bids in. They've had a little chat, and then that's it. I don't know what their game plan is. I don't think anyone at Man United knows what they're supposed to be doing.
£70 million for Brian Mbeumo. He's not a £70 million footballer. I'm sorry. I like Brian Mbeumo, and I think he's a decent player. I do, however, have reservations on that here, and let me cook. So, last season, I feel like his stats were massively skewed. He overperformed last season massively. So, last season, he got 20 league goals and 7 assists. So 27 return, yeah. Prior to that, he's getting 9 and 6, 9 and 8, 4 and 7, 8 and 10, and then the other season before that, I believe, was in the Championship. So he's massively overperformed last season. Now, don't get me wrong, he's still 25. He's probably coming into his peak, and he's developed into a more all-round player. But I don't know if he's going to produce that season on season for Man United, and I think he could do, and he could royally shut me up. But I just think 70 million is it's a big fee. But
no, I completely agree. I think, unfortunately, gone are the days where once a player, like you say, Brian Mbeumo is probably coming into his peak. He's 25 years old. He's probably coming into those next 5 years of his career where he's going to be a top player. Unfortunately, gone are the days where when someone has the first good season of their peak, you can go and get them for 25, 30 million. Now you're having to pay exponential amounts. And especially a team like Brentford, who they've already lost Norgard, they're probably going to lose Visser. They're probably good. Well, they've lost Mbeumo now by the looks of it. They're going to want as much money as they can from teams.
Do you think they'll lose Visser? I can't see it. Surely they're not going to lose Visser as well as Norgard and Thomas Frank and Mbeumo. Surely there's got to be a point where they put the foot down and say, look, we can't do any more this season because otherwise it's going to be suicidal, detrimental to the football club. They have to have a bit of stability. Sorry.
Yeah, I think as a club they don't want to. It comes down to Wisser then, what he decides to do. From what I was reading today, he actively wants to look for a different club. He wants to try something new. I think he probably wants to be playing in Europe. He thinks he's probably at that level. Again, he's had one good season. He's not exactly set the world alight in terms of every year. Unfortunately, it depends how Brentford look at it. If Brentford have full trust and full backing in Gareth Andrews, I could see them potentially selling Mbeumo, Wisser and Norgard and just letting Gareth Andrews completely rebuild the squad in the hopes that it can be like Thomas Frank.
Keith Andrews, isn't it?
Oh, it might be Keith Andrews.
Yeah, I think it's Keith Andrews. Is it the old Irish player, isn't it, I believe?
Yes, I don't know who Gareth Andrews is.
I don't know either. That's why I had to pull you up.
Definitely a footballer. I'm going to do some...
Yeah, it's definitely Keith. Good old Keith. What a name Keith is.
Old school. He's an Australian footballer. There you go.
I can't say I've ever seen Gareth Andrews play football.
Yeah. He's an Aussie Rules player. Big Aussie Rules fan. Big Aussie Rules fan here on the channel.
I actually like Aussie Rules, but I don't know who he is.
He's 78 years old. So he's definitely not the Brentford manager.
Oh, God.
But, yeah, I can see a world where Brentford do it, if I'm honest. I think they've made a reputation. I know it was under a different manager, but they have made a reputation of rebuilding and almost doing what Leicester did, really, in that title-winning season. Obviously, it's not to the same level, but finding random players and turning them into gems.
Well, they've still got... They've still got their record signing to come back. I can't remember his name now. Let me have a go. I'll have to look it up now. The lad that got injured and he was out for a while. Squad. There you go. Thiago Igor. He got injured. Yeah, he got injured for pretty much all of the season, didn't he? Pretty much. So he's coming back. They're going to have Kevin Schade still for the left wing. If they go and sign a right winger, they've practically already replaced them anyway. But it's still a big risk, isn't it? I think Keith Andrews is a risk in itself, but kind of is what it is. That's kind of the position that Brentford are in. They've obviously signed Jordan Henderson to add a bit of steel and a bit of experience in the midfield.
Yeah, I mean, I like that signing. I really do. I think I'm not a massive Jordan Henderson fan. I think he got a lot of stick at the wrong times when he was at Liverpool, but I do think it's a good signing by them. It covers for Norgard quite well. It complements Brentford's style of play quite well. But yeah, listen, they're going to have to rebuild. Missing Mbeumo, whether Wissa goes or not, losing a player with that many goal contributions of last season, it's hard to replace. I mean, again, obviously, I don't want to keep bringing things back to Villa, but we are a Villa page as sorts as well. We've struggled to replace the Douglas Luiz and Diaby goals. That's one thing that we've struggled to sort of do. It's a massive thing trying to replace goals, and I think if they can get the right money, they've got the chance to do that.
I do agree with you. Is there anything else you want to talk about from around the world of football?
I don't believe so. There's a bit of news about Estepinian potentially going to AC Milan, but that'll probably be... We'll probably know what's going to be going on by the time the next podcast drops with that.
Okay. Well, on that note, I think it's a good point to leave it there. I want to thank you all for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. And yeah, thank you all.
Thank you very much. Make sure as well, if you've come from the TikTok for Ben's giveaway, you let us know in the comment section as well.